Hey guys, welcome to Monday, May 11th. It's Algebra 2 one more time. Today we're going to be looking at some statistics things. Right now we're going to look into what the measures of central tendency are. These are things you probably already know how to do: mean, median, and mode. We're also going to look at things called measures of spread. So we're going to look at like how big things are, how little things are, what is the average distance away everything is, the variance, outliers, is there a number that just does not fit within the data set, look at range, look at interquartile range, and one more thing I couldn't fit on here, we will draw a box and whisker plot. Okay, so a lot of these things you've probably done before, and I'm going to show you how we can get almost 100% of the data by plugging it into the calculator and letting it spit it back out for us. And so I'll show you how to do that using the graphing calculator as well as the TI-36X Pro. So hopefully you have one of those nearby so that you can kind of play along. So as we get started here, this printout is available on the blog. So if you want it, stop the video, print this off so that you can kind of follow along. You can pause. Okay, so we're back. And so I'm going to write down some data. This data is real data. It is from a quiz that we took on March 11th. Some people did pretty well. Some people didn't do very well. I did pick, majority of the numbers I picked are numbers that are pretty good. So I have 10 pieces of data. So start with, this is in no particular order. 63, 92, 13. Yes, again, this is real data. Somebody made a 13. 79, 88, 100, 92, 83, and another 92. So that should be 10 pieces of data. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we have 10 pieces of real data from a quiz that you guys took on March 11th. So the next thing it wants us to do is putting in ascending order. In other words, just let's list the numbers now in order. So as we ascend, it's smallest first. So it'll be 13. And then as you look across the board, 63. So I'm just going to dot them. 13, 63. Looks like 79 is next. We have an 83. Let's see, there's an 88. Okay, so let's see, 92, 100, 100, 92, 92. So there are three 92s, 92, 92, 92, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and there are two 100s, 100, 100. All right, so there's the data now as it goes from smallest to greatest, just so we have an order. All right, so let's just go through and we'll talk about these things. We'll fill the gaps in here, and then we'll go and we'll start looking at the calculators. All right, so maximum, obviously, that's the biggest value. And when you look at your data set, that's 100. That's going to be the biggest number. The minimum is the smallest number, which we have 13. Okay. Mean, it is average. It's the average value. And so to find the mean, you know what? I'm going to zoom in just a bit. All right, that should work. Average. So to find the mean, you're going to add all the values and divide by the number of values that you have. Now we are fortunate that our calculators are basically going to do that for us, but since I've got your attention, So real quick, we know that there's 10 values. I'm trying to balance this. So 13 plus 63 plus 79 plus 83, 88, 392s, and 2 100s. Alright, so we divide that by the number of values there are, which is 10, and so we get an average of 80.2. Alright, so in a few minutes to show you how to get all that data in the calculator. Alright, mode. Mode. Welcome to mode. Okay, so mode, most often. Okay, put the numbers in order from greatest to least, or least to greatest, which is what we have. Find the number that appears the most. Okay, there can be more than one mode, or there can be none. It's possible that there's no mode. So, if every one of these values had only occurred one time, then there would be none. If they all occurred 2 times, there would be none. So if they all occur the same amount of times, there is no mode. There has to be something that occurs more than others. Okay? In our case, that's going to be, this is the wrong color, going to be 92. 92 happens 3 times, so 92 becomes our mode. All right, median. Okay? The median is the middle number. Okay, to find the median, put the numbers in order from least to greatest. We have that. Let's see a second, guys. I'm going to autofocus this just to make sure that we're all good. Okay. Mark off the highest and low values until you reach the middle. Well, I'm not going to start crossing out values because I want you to be able to see them. If there are 2 middle numbers, then we average them. Okay, so what if we just did this? Okay, so I'm going to come in and I'm going to start blocking them off. So 10 and 13, 163, 92, 79, 83, and so you'll see if I cross these 2 out, then there's nothing in the middle. So if these 2, okay, are the 2 middle numbers, then we average them. So the average, let's clear that out, 88 plus 92 divided by 2 numbers is 90. So 90 becomes our median, otherwise known as the second quartile or Q2. Some people will call that Q2. All right. Outlier. Okay, outlier is a value that is, let's see, plus or minus 3 standard deviations. Now we're going to talk about standard deviations like on the next page. Okay, so we are not ready to calculate this value, but we are ready to go ahead and learn how to put this data into our calculator. So I'll try to do both kind of going at the same time. All right. So for the graphing calculator, what you want to do is come over here to the stat button right there. It says stat, S-T-A-T. So press stat. And so this calculator has this edit right here. And so what we're doing, that's where we are. So edit, so I can edit any of this stuff. I want to edit. So the very first thing you got there is number 1. So just hit enter. And it gives you these columns. And those columns should be L1, L2, and L3. If it says anything else besides L1, L2, and L3, you need to get on the phone and text me so that I can walk you through how to fix that. Okay? All right, well, I have L1, so I can just start entering the data. And it doesn't actually matter that it's in order or not. So I'm going to actually use the data that's above. I'm not going to use the chronological data. So 63, and just hit enter. and then 92, enter, 13, enter, and just keep putting the 10 pieces of data into the calculator. 88, 100, 92, 83, and 92. Okay. So as you finished, as you were putting in the last piece of data, right here, it says 10. So this is the 10th piece of data. So that kind of helps you keep up. Did I put everything in? Because that's the biggest mistake people make, is they just don't put all the pieces of data in. So you got to be real careful. So hit enter. All right, so everything's in. Okay. Now, as we go to figure out where all this stuff is that you're looking for, okay, whoops, we want to go back to the stat menu, so stat. And this time, there's this calculate right here. So we want to move our cursor over to calc, okay, and we want to be on this one var stats, one variable statistics, the very first thing that's there. So hit enter, and so what we've done is we've selected it. We actually haven't done it yet, so we just have to enter our way through here. So just enter, 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 okay, and it gives you the data. All right, so I'm going to stop, and I'm going to change calculators, and I'm going to show you the TI-36 people how to get their data in. All right, so on the TI-36X calculator, there's a data button right here, data. So we want to hit data, and there's data in here. Well, we want to get that data out. So if you hit the data button again, hit it twice, it says clear. So we want to clear it. And now you'll see that all that data is gone. So again, we just want to go and put all those numbers, 63, use this to block that, 63, enter, and it's not in there until you hit enter. 92, enter, 13, enter, 100, enter, 79, keep hitting enter after every piece of data, 88, 100, 92, 83, and the last one's 92. Once again, it'll tell you right here that that's the 10th piece of data. So you want to make sure you have the right numbers in there. Okay, so that is in the calculator. All right. Now, on top of the data button is the stat reg. Okay, stat regular distribution. Okay, so we want to hit second data, and it gives us the option to do what we did on the other calculator, which is this one var stats. So we want to do number 2 on this calculator. Just hit 2 and hit enter all the way through there, and you're at the same screen now that our graphing calculator is at. Okay. All right. So we'll go back through kind of this information, looking at the calculator at the same time. All right. So if you scroll down, this gives you the option to keep scrolling. You'll see that the calculator, let me go down one more, gives you what the minimum and the maximum are. Okay, so we already knew our minimum was going to be 100. I'm sorry, maximum is 100, just like it says here. Max is 100. Your smallest, which is the minimum, tells you right here the minimum is 13. Now, while we're here on this screen, it also tells you what the median is. So right here, right in the middle of all that, it says med, M-E-D, median. The median is known as the second quartile. There's the 90 that the calculator is telling us right there. All right, so I'm going to scroll up, and we're going to find the mean. So the mean is the first thing on the screen. This X bar, this 80.2 right there. That's the mean. So what I'll do is I'll come out to the side here, and I'm going to write this symbol, X bar. Okay, and so that is mean. All right. So on the calculator, your mean is this 80.2. Whoop, you can't see it anymore. It says 80.2. It says X bar. It's the very, very first statistic that it gives you. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna change calculators real quick. Show you the same thing on the TI-36X Pro. So we want to go to the stat reg. Okay, we're going to go to the stat. So we hit second data. We're going to go down to number 2. We're going to hit enter. We're going to enter our way through here. And here's the same data. So I know my calculator is a little messed up, but right here is this X bar that I was talking about on the other calculator, and there's the 80.2. As you scroll down, you see the same values. There's the minimum at 13, there's the median at 90, and there's the maximum at 100. Okay, that kind of rolls back up to the top. So we have the data in the calculator now. It doesn't matter that it's in order. The calculator will do that for you. We just rolled through how to find the maximum and the minimum, the mean, the second quartile, otherwise known as the median. Now, the statistic that it does not tell us is the mode. Okay, so the mode is something you're going to have to kind of look at the data yourself and figure that part out. And we're coming back to standard deviations in just a second. Okay, so don't clear your calculators. Keep your calculator data in front of you just like this so that we don't have to go back and get it, all right? Leave it there. Flip the page. All right, range. Range is a calculation, but it is the calculation. It's how big they're spread apart, okay? So to find the range, you can put the numbers in least to greatest if you want, but it's a subtraction, okay? So you're going to subtract. So it's the smallest number from the greatest number. And if you remember, our maximum was 100 and our minimum was 13. So our data is spread apart 87 units, okay? So that subtraction was 87 units apart. All right, standard deviation. Let's see, okay. Standard deviation. All right, so standard deviation is the amount, it is the average distance that each data point is away from the mean. And I know that's a lot to think about. But what you're looking for in the calculator is this small little sigma right there. So our standard deviation, and I'm gonna use the symbol. Okay, standard deviation, and for this problem, is 24.6. Yeah, 24.7, but I'm going to leave it at 24.6 because I've already written that down. Okay, variance is the standard deviation squared. Okay, so you'll actually have to get out of this menu to be able to get the variance. So you'd have to quit, go put 24.6 in the calculator, kind of like this, okay? So 24.6, and you square that. It's a big number, 605.2. We'll call it 0.2. 605.2 is the variance. It's a big variance. It's a big spread. All right, let's go back and we'll talk about outliers. So I'm going to scoot this up. No, actually, I'm going to leave it. So what you might be looking at is for an outlier, okay? Outlier would be a piece of data that just doesn't really fit with the rest of the data. And so most of you guys will sit here and go, oh, I see it. Okay, 13. 13 is a data point that's not even close to the rest of them, okay? And so some of you guys will go, okay, 13 is going to be our outlier. Well, the outlier is actually a calculatable piece of data, okay? So it's a value that's outside this range. So what we do is you take the mean, it's x bar plus 3 standard deviations, and x bar minus 3 standard deviations. And that's going to give you a range. And so we need the data that we had above. So our mean is 80.2. And our standard deviation, if you can see it, or you can't see it, is 24.6. So I'm going to add, what color did I do that in? I did it in red. I'm going to add 3 times 24.6, and I'm going to subtract 3 times 24.6. And we're going to get two values. Okay? So let's do this calculation real quick. All right. 80.2 plus 3 times 24.6. Enter. And so 154. That's the high side. Okay? So 154 exactly. Okay? It didn't have any decimals. It's 154 exactly. So we'll do that again. Copy it. Paste it down here. And I'm going to subtract this time. So as we subtract, we get 6.4. All right, so here's the question about outliers. Are any of the data pieces, are any of these data points, and the one that you guys are thinking is 13 probably, are any of those data points bigger than 154 or less than 64? Do you have any values that are outside that range? And the answer is no. We have no outliers. This piece of data set that I picked from March 11th, a quiz that we took before the COVID-19 break, has no outliers. And it's a calculatable decision. Take the mean, that's the X bar. You're going to add 3 times the standard deviation, which we calculated over here. Standard deviation was 24.6. And then you're going to do the subtraction. Are any of those points outside of this range? Are they anything lower than 6.4 and higher than 154? And we don't. We don't have any, so there were no outliers in this data set. All right, so that was outliers. I told you we'd come back to that. All right, let's turn the calculator back on. Here is the rest of, I'm going to flip this because it's better on this side. All right, first and lower quartile. Let's go pink. All right, is the first quarter of the first half. Okay? So what you're doing is you're cutting the data into 4 pieces. So the third or upper quartile is the last quarter of the last half of data. And the interquartile range is the subtraction of those two values. So as a little formula, the interquartile range here is Q3 minus Q1. Now, the beautiful thing about this is, you might have noticed these. These two calculators are going to give you those pieces of data. So as we scrolled down earlier, we found our minimum, we found our median, and we found our maximum. And in between those was Q1 and Q3. So, beautiful. They gave it to us. First quartile was 79. And the third quartile is 92. And the interquartile range is just the subtraction of those two numbers. 92 minus 79, which is just 13. So again, calculator is going to do a majority of this work for you if you can just learn where to put the data. Okay, the max is the last value of the data set. So just to kind of summarize, X bar is your mean way down here. This sigma, this lowercase sigma x, that's your standard deviation at 24.6, which really should have been 24.7. That n is the number of pieces of data that you put in the calculator. we have the minimum at 13, our Q1, which is the first 25% of the data, the median, which is the middle data set, the Q3, which is 75% of the data, and the maximum, which is the largest number in the data set. Now, those 5 things that we just saw, these 5 things right here, make up your box and whisker plot. Okay? So, in order for us to make our box plot, we're going to need those 5 things. So, I've got them over here. All right, so we have our minimum, which is 13, our maximum, which is 100, our median, which is 90. This is 90. It's all right here. It's all given to you on this screen. The first quartile, 79, and the third quartile is 92. As you're making your box plots, you got to remember these things right here. Give it a title. What is this data about? Make sure it has constant intervals. So by that, what you want to do is make sure that you create a number line. Oh, you can't see my number line. Let's create a number line and make sure that when we number it, that it's evenly distributed. So when we look at this, I've got 13 and I'm going up to 100. So if I did this, I can go 10, 20, 30. These are even intervals, consistent intervals. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. So we want to make sure that these little dashes are as evenly distributed as possible. All right, so each section of the box is going to represent, do y'all know, I've said it, I kind of said it, 25% of the data. They're quartiles, quarters, okay? All right, so let's plot it now. And we're going to have to kind of estimate where these dots are going to go. So let's plot it, and then we'll go back and we'll give it a title. Let's see, the minimum is 13, so it's going to be just past 10. The maximum is 100, so it's all the way down here. And so those are the ends of the whiskers. Okay, got a box and whisker plot. The median, 90, is going to be right there. The first quartile, 79, is just going to be just less than 80. And the third quartile is 92, which is just past 90. And so you get a box between the first quartile and the third quartile, and you're going to connect the whiskers. Okay, so let me label those for you. This is the minimum. This is the maximum. Q1, Q3, and in the middle, you've got the median. Okay, and remember you're supposed to give this a title. You guys remember what the data was called? Or where did I get that data? This is March 11th quiz data. So you got to give it a title. All right. So that is our Monday. Summarize that. You got some data. You can find all types of different statistical measurements. About 90% of them can be done in the calculator. Creating your box and whisker, you need these 5 things, which in the calculator are right there. Minimum, Q1, Q3, median, and maximum. Label it, give it a number line, give it a name. You do not have to label these pieces. And that's it. So there is a homework assignment that's on the blog. It's not Delta Math. So for those of you that are like, yay, I don't have to do it, you don't have to do anything at this point. But for those of you that need the grade, you're trying to get your homework average up, you can submit this via Remind or email. So please do that if you need to. Guys, have a good Monday. We will talk to you soon.